Imagine waking up to find that the materials vital for smartphones, electric vehicles, and even US fighter jets are suddenly cut off. This isn't a science fiction scenario, it's a looming national security concern. The United States is heavily reliant on foreign countries for crucial rare earth elements used in high-tech and defense applications. In recent years, China has produced about 60 to 70% of the world's rare earths, and nearly 85 to 90% of processed rare earth products, effectively controlling the supply chain. Washington now finds itself deeply dependent on overseas sources for these and other critical minerals. A dependence experts warn could be a strategic Achilles heel. Why can't the US just mine these itself? The reality is that many critical minerals are scarce or costly to produce domestically, and supply chains have shifted overseas for decades. As we'll explore, this has left America and the broader West vulnerable to geopolitical resource blackmail, especially from China. Today, we'll break down why the United States needs rare earths and strategic metals from around the world, which materials are most critical, who controls their supply, and how this dependency became a national security issue. We'll also examine how the United States and its allies are scrambling to respond from new mines in North America to recycling initiatives and international alliances, and assess whether these efforts can actually close the gap in time. So, what exactly are critical minerals and why do they matter? Well, in short, these are the building blocks of our modern economy and military. They include the 17 rare earth elements like neodymium and dysprosium, plus other strategic metals such as lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, platinum group metals, and quite a few more. These resources are found in everything from the phones and laptops we use daily to the electric vehicle batteries, wind turbines and solar panels that are driving the clean energy revolution. Crucially, they're also indispensable for advanced weapons systems and aerospace. Think precision-guided missiles, fighter jet engines, drones, and satellite communications. The US government currently classifies 50 different minerals as critical to economic and national security. This list includes well-known elements like copper and uranium, and also some pretty obscure metals like tantalum, gallium, germanium, and yttrium. Over the past few decades, the United States, like many other Western nations, has seen its domestic mining and refining of critical minerals steadily decline. And as a result of that decline, the US today depends on imports for a vast majority of these resources. In fact, as of 2022, the US was 50% or more import reliant for 43 out of 50 critical minerals. And for 13 of those, it was over 95% reliant on foreign supply. So here's the thing, at least a dozen key minerals have absolutely no domestic production at all. That means 100% of the US supply is imported. And this list of fully imported materials, it's not just obscure stuff, it includes everyday industrial minerals and high-tech elements alike, like manganese, niobium, arsenic, fluorspar, indium and tantalum. And perhaps most importantly, rare earth elements themselves are still almost entirely foreign-sourced for the United States. Truly, it's impossible to talk about rare earths and critical metals without focusing on China's central role. Over the past 3 decades, China has systematically built up a near monopoly in many of these materials, not just mining them, but more crucially, processing them into usable forms. So why China? Well, in short, China made some very strategic choices to invest heavily in these industries. They often tolerated high environmental costs and subsidized production, which ended up undercutting competitors. Western mines and refineries, unable to compete on cost, eventually shut down or moved operations offshore. Today, China's so-called iron grip on rare earths and other critical minerals is a geopolitical reality. From mining all the way to magnet making, China controls the entire supply chain. It produces about 63% of mined rare earths and somewhere between 85 to 90% of processed rare earth oxides, and an astonishing 92% of rare earth magnet manufacturing. The military and tech industries really depend on those magnets, yet almost all of them come from China or Chinese-owned facilities. This dominance isn't just about market power, it's actually geopolitical leverage. Facing the stark reality of critical mineral dependency, the United States has launched a multi-pronged strategy to secure supply chains. This is a broad effort involving domestic initiatives, international diplomacy, and industry partnerships. A key part of the solution is reviving mining at home. The US is trying to kickstart domestic production of everything from rare earths to lithium. The US recognizes it can't achieve supply security alone. Allied countries are critical, both as alternative suppliers and as co-investors in new projects. For instance, Canada, a neighbor with vast mineral riches, is a linchpin of US strategy. Congress, recent and current administrations have been pretty busy crafting policies to support these efforts. A few highlights include the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, the Defense Authorization Acts, and President Trump's recent executive order to increase domestic minerals production for national security. Will these efforts be enough? And how long will it take to free the United States from critical mineral dependency on adversarial sources? The answer is complex. Building an entire supply chain from mines to processing plants to factories is, without a doubt, a long game. Even with aggressive moves, experts warn it could take the better part of a decade or more to significantly reduce reliance on China and other foreign choke points. One major bottleneck is permitting and community opposition. Opening a new mine in the United States can take years of environmental reviews and legal challenges. And then there's also the challenge of workforce and know-how, which can really slow things down. Global competition poses risks too. As Western countries rush to secure supplies, there's definitely potential for new dependencies. For example, if the United States leans heavily on friendly countries like Australia or Canada, those supplies are safer than China's, but still not entirely immune to disruption. So, the question we began with was, why does the United States need rare earths and critical metals from around the world? Well, the answer, as we've seen, is really multifaceted. These materials are, without a doubt, the cornerstone of America's high-tech economy and military power. And right now, the US just can't meet its needs without global supply lines that stretch through both allied nations and strategic competitors. This dependency has become a strategic liability, especially when it comes to China, which has shown it's willing to weaponize its dominance in this space. But the good news is, recognizing the problem is already prompting action. The United States and its partners are now treating critical minerals as a top-tier strategic priority. They're launching initiatives to mine more domestically, strengthen ties with trusted suppliers, push innovation in recycling, and pass legislation to secure these supply chains. There's still a long road ahead to build the kind of resilient supply chain that policymakers are aiming for. But every new mine groundbreaking, every international minerals agreement, and every advanced recycling facility is one more step towards strengthening America's supply security. What are your thoughts on this important issue? Like, share and subscribe to continue the conversation and keep up on the latest about rare earths and critical metals with Critical Metals News.